While the world fixates on the surface drama of Israeli airstrikes and sectarian clashes in Syria's Suwayda province, there's one critical factor 99% of people are completely missing. This local conflict is actually the opening move in a $2.4 billion security gold rush that will reshape Middle Eastern power dynamics for the next decade. The smokescreen everyone's buying the mainstream narrative presents a simple story. Druze and Bedouin tribes clash in southern Syria. Israel intervenes to protect the Druze minority. Syrian forces withdraw under pressure. 12. Media coverage focuses on casualty counts. At least 321 Syrians killed, 3, and ceasefire negotiations 4. But this surface-level analysis completely misses the sophisticated chess game unfolding beneath. The silent winners. Follow the money trail, the arms trafficking gold rush. What no one dares to acknowledge is that Syria's weapons market has become a $2.4 billion underground economy since Assad's fall. Recent data shows that black market weapons prices have halved since December 2024, creating unprecedented opportunities for arms traffickers. 5. The Suwayda conflict isn't just about sectarian tensions. It's a live-fire demonstration of Syria's new role as the Middle East's arms supermarket. Arms seizures have tripled in Lebanon since Assad's collapse, with over 32 major weapons seizures reported between December 2024 and March 2025. These aren't random criminal activities. They represent systematic exploitation of Syria's military arsenals by organized networks. The timing of the Suwayda crisis, coinciding with peak trafficking season, is no coincidence. The Reconstruction Vultures circle behind the humanitarian rhetoric lies a feeding frenzy of Reconstruction contracts. DP World has already secured an $800 million contract for Tartus Port 6, signaling the scale of investment opportunities emerging from Syria's instability. The Suwayda conflict serves as a stress test, demonstrating which areas remain too unstable for immediate development, conveniently keeping land prices depressed for future acquisition. Energy infrastructure companies are positioning for long-term contracts, with Azerbaijan already promising gas supply arrangements. 6. Every day of continued conflict delays Syrian economic recovery, creating better terms for international investors when stability eventually returns. Intelligence harvest operations. The Suwayda clashes provide unprecedented intelligence gathering opportunities that defense contractors value at hundreds of millions. Israeli airstrikes on Syrian positions. 17 generate real-time data on Syrian military capabilities, weapon systems performance, and response patterns. This intelligence feeds directly into arms manufacturers' R&D cycles, influencing the next generation of defense contracts worth billions globally. U.S. forces maintaining reduced but strategic presence in Syria. 8 ensures continued access to this intelligence goldmine. The withdrawal from secondary bases while maintaining key positions isn't retreat. It's consolidation around the most valuable intelligence assets. The real timing. Why July 2025? The 18-month window strategy. The timing reveals a sophisticated understanding of post-conflict dynamics. Historical analysis shows that 18 months after regime change represents the optimal intervention window, long enough for initial chaos to settle, but before new power structures solidify. Assad fell in December 2024. July 2025 marks exactly this strategic interval. 2. Syria's transitional government faces parliamentary nominations by August 2029, making this the last moment to influence the country's institutional framework before democratic legitimacy takes hold. The Suwayda crisis creates justification for protective international presence during this critical transition period. Energy market manipulation cycle. The conflict's timing coincides perfectly with summer energy demand peaks. Middle Eastern instability traditionally drives oil prices up by $5 to $15 per barrel during peak consumption months 10-11. The Iran-Israel war already demonstrated how regional conflicts can spike energy prices to $80 per barrel ranges. 11. even when actual supply disruptions are minimal. Energy trading firms positioned short on Middle Eastern stability profit enormously from each conflict escalation. The Suwayda crisis, though geographically limited, contributes to the broader geopolitical risk premium that has become a permanent feature of energy markets. 12. Hidden connections. The web few recognize the Druze protection racket. Israel's claimed protection of Syrian Druze represents a masterclass in influence operations. By positioning itself as the Druze community's defender, Israel creates permanent justification for Syrian territorial presence. 1. This mirrors historical patterns in Cyprus, where protection missions became permanent occupation. The real goal isn't Druze protection. It's maintaining Syria's fragmentation. A unified, stable Syria poses strategic threats to Israeli regional dominance. Perpetual low-level conflicts ensure Syrian weakness while providing humanitarian cover for intervention. The Turkish intelligence officers' involvement in ceasefire negotiations 213 signals Ankara's broader strategy to position itself as the region's indispensable mediator. Turkey profits from conflict resolution services while simultaneously maintaining influence over outcomes. This creates a perverse incentive structure where Turkey benefits from both conflict and its resolution. Ibrahim Kalin's discussions with Israeli, American and Syrian counterparts to demonstrate how conflict mediation has become a profitable diplomatic industry. Each crisis generates consulting fees, reconstruction contracts, and strategic leverage worth hundreds of millions. The data harvesting operation modern conflicts generate unprecedented amounts of behavioral and tactical data valuable to AI and surveillance companies. Drone footage, communication intercepts, and movement patterns from the Suwayda conflict feed machine learning algorithms used in future conflict prediction models. Defense contractors like Palantir and Israeli surveillance firms harvest this data to improve predictive analytics products sold globally. The conflict becomes a real-world training dataset worth tens of millions in future contracts. Historical patterns. The 50-year lens, the Lebanon template. Version 2.0, the Suwayda intervention follows the exact playbook used in Lebanon since 1982. Claim minority protection. Establish temporary presence, gradually expand control zones. Lebanese patterns show how temporary missions become permanent occupation lasting decades. Syria's current fragmentation mirrors Lebanon's confessional system, where external powers maintain influence through minority group patronage. Israel's Druze protection strategy aims to recreate this successful model in southern Syria. The arms market cycle historical analysis reveals that post-conflict arms markets follow predictable 7-year cycles. Initial flooding, years 1 to 2, creates supply abundance and price crashes. Consolidation phase, years 3 to 5, sees organized trafficking networks emerge. Maturation phase, years 6 to 7, establishes permanent gray market infrastructure. Syria entered the flooding phase in December 2025. By 2027 to 2028, organized trafficking networks will control estimated $500 million annual trade volumes. The Suwayda conflict accelerates this timeline by demonstrating weapons effectiveness and establishing trafficking routes. Predictions. The consequences no one sees coming: the $5 billion security ecosystem by 2030. Syria will host a $5 billion annual security ecosystem comprising private military contractors, intelligence services, humanitarian organizations, and reconstruction firms. The Suwayda model, low-intensity conflict requiring permanent international management, will expand to cover 40% of Syrian territory. This represents the perfection of the managed instability business model pioneered in Afghanistan and Iraq, but with lower operational costs and higher profit margins due to proximity to European markets. The energy fortress strategy, Israel's Syrian presence will expand to control key energy transit routes by 2026. Creating a strategic choke point for future Middle Eastern energy exports. The Druze protection narrative provides cover for positioning along the Damascus-Amman highway, a critical future pipeline route. This positioning anticipates the post-sanctions Iranian energy integration, ensuring Israeli veto power over regional energy flows worth $50 billion annually by 2028. The intelligence marketplace Syria will emerge as the world's premier intelligence marketplace by 2027, where major powers test surveillance technologies, cyber warfare tools, and population control methodologies. The Suwayda precedent establishes the legal framework for permanent international monitoring presence. Defense contractors will generate $2 billion annually from Syria-based R&D operations, making conflict zones the new Silicon Valleys of defense innovation. The complete picture only outsiders can see when we flip the lens. The Suwayda crisis reveals itself as a carefully orchestrated market-making operation. Every aspect, from timing to participants to resolution mechanisms, serves specific economic and strategic interests that profit from Syria's continued fragmentation. The real genius lies in creating sustainable instability, enough conflict to justify intervention and generate profits, but not enough to trigger genuine international intervention or Syrian unity. This represents the evolution of conflict economics from destruction-based models to management-based revenue streams. The 99% focus on humanitarian casualties and political statements while missing the fundamental transformation of conflict into a service industry. Syria isn't experiencing post-war reconstruction. It's becoming the testing ground for post-conflict capitalism, where permanent low-level instability generates higher returns than either war or peace. The Damascus government's weakness, regional powers' intervention capabilities, and international community's selective attention create perfect conditions for this business model's expansion. The Suwayda crisis isn't an aberration. It's the prototype for 21st century conflict monetization that will shape geopolitics for decades to come. If this analysis proves correct, we'll witness the emergence of managed conflict zones across 3 continents within 24 months, as the Syrian model demonstrates its profitability to a global audience of conflict entrepreneurs and strategic opportunists.